Bethany Warren here. Welcome back to season 23 to 24 of our Millwall fan show with new panellists, but the same focus, just everything Millwall. Enjoy!
Welcome to the third show of the 2023-24 season of the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking, our Millwall fan show. I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Ted Robinson, Dave Hart and Stan Godwin.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Hi, Ted.
Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, sir. Hi, Dave.
Hi, Gary.
And hi, Stan.
All right there, Gary.
All right. So, a very pleasing opening game of the season, followed by a very disappointing defeat in the League Cup. I know people have got different opinions. I'm personally not bothered by it by one bit. You've only got to look at other results that went certain ways around us. But let's not bother about that game. Let's just talk about Middlesbrough and then move on to other matters. Guys.
Hang on a minute. You can't. I've got no problem with talking about Middlesbrough or even talking about this game this week, but you can't just ignore what took place the other night. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Well, let's talk about Middlesbrough first, then we get to that then.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
Fine. Go on then. Ted, your thoughts on Middlesbrough first.
Well, it couldn't have gone any better. It was a simple answer to it, Gal. Well, I mean, all the talk going on amongst Millwall fans about what formation he was going to play and whatever. Well, let's say about Gary Rowett, he's got it right because that performance was excellent. All that was missing was a goal. And when we did get the goal, I couldn't have been more pleased if I wanted to be because the two young lads being involved and the strike from SA was superb. The run by, what was his name, Maku, was outstanding. The way he teased an experienced defender in and just left him for dead, which was fantastic to see. But they obviously took the highlights because they scored the goals, or the praise because they scored the goals. But the performance in all was outstanding. Duncan Watmore, I think, was showing us all the sort of player that I thought he was when we signed him, but we didn't really get to see it, if you know what I mean. Maybe because he was either battling against a bit of an injury or whatever, I don't know. But he certainly in pre-season and certainly against Middlesbrough, he showed us what a quality player we've got. He needs to remember what bench he come off of course, but that's another story. But listen, I think we all thought before the game, anything from Middlesbrough will be a good result. So to take or get a win out of the game, keep a clean sheet for our new goalkeeper as well. It's an excellent result, and we could not have wished for anything more than that from an opening game of the season against a side that I still believe is going to be one of the ones battling up the top there with us, of course.
Fair enough. And Ted, I'm going to speak about it, your thoughts on Tuesday?
Listen, I think you can read too much into a game like that. Like Stan said, I'm not going to disagree with what Stan said earlier. I mean, of course, there'd be disappointment to be losing any game at home 4-0. You don't want to be doing that. But what I did say when I was walking out the ground after the game, I wasn't surprised by the result. I was surprised by the amount we lost by. But what I will say is get your money on Millwall for Saturday, because that Millwall team that comes out on Saturday will be a completely different side than the one that we watched on Tuesday night. I can assure you that. What went wrong Tuesday night, I don't know. It started bad and just got worse, But we know there'll be changes. There'll be different people, different personnel in there. I think if I'm honest, I think it'll be the side that started against Middlesbrough on Saturday. But as you said as well, Gal, you do have to put it in perspective, because there was a lot of championship sides that lost or struggled in this, because I do genuinely believe most championship sides could do without the League Cup in their minds. Yeah. I'm talking about. Us as fans don't see it that way, but I think as a priority to a football club, unfortunately, that's what they do. And I say we wasn't the only ones that went out on Tuesday night. There was Watford, Sunderland, Preston North End. You know, a lot of championship sides went out. And in the league sense, I genuinely believe it will benefit us because we won't have them midweek games coming up that we, I say don't want to play, but it sounds a strange thing for me to be saying because I love to win every game. But I'm not going to get beaten up about a poor performance in the Carabao Cup when we've had such an excellent performance in the league. And yeah, of course you've got to question what happened with the players on Tuesday night. Because it just looked to me like Reading was playing a competitive game and we was having a run out. But that's down to Gary Rowett to sort that out with them, and I'm sure he will do. And like I say, I think on Saturday we'll see the true Millwall coming out on the pitch.
Agreed. I'll go to Dave next.
Well, Middlesbrough, I mean, it's just one of those places that historically it's not. We don't really get a lot of good results up there. So the way the game went and it was managed, the performances of the players on the day, the subs, and as Ted said, the goal between the two youngsters, youth team taking over there, was just sublime. It was so enjoyable. And then moving on to Tuesday, these games are where you sort of you go and you want to progress in any cup competition. But me personally, I think this Carabao Cup, I think the format of it needs to change.
Agreed.
Maybe drop the Premiership sides out altogether, and that would give a bigger carrot to all the teams that are taking part in it.
Yep. Or make it a little mini league situation that runs over a couple of weeks. Give it some more incentive. That it's just not one game knockout. So it gives you something to. If you're going to play your kids, the kids have a chance to do something. I just think the whole format of it needs to change.
Yeah, but as I say, you always like to win a game. I do. I don't, and to lose 4-0, well, that's a real hard pill to swallow. But Ted's right with the thing about the, you're not going to be having these games midweek. And at the end of the day, for us to actually get too far in that competition, it's not once it's Premiership size.
The thing is, Dave, who's won it in the last? God, I can't remember anybody but a Premier League. Not only a Premier League side, but one of the big boys winning it.
I think City have won it 4 times in the last 5 years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, it is. But as Ted said, Saturday's going to be a different kettle of fish.
Definitely.
And looking forward to it.
Me too. Stan?
Well, I'm listening to all this. It's all very interesting. Needless to say, I disagree with the lot, right? Because I don't subscribe to this theory that cup games don't matter. As a football manager,
Not just cup games, Stan. We're just talking.
No, hang on. Let me finish. I'm talking about cup games, right? Right. The manager of Millwall or any other club, his job description is quite simple. His job description is to win football matches. It's as simple as that, right? Last season, I heard all this before about cups, and we'd rather not be. If you don't want to, then if you don't want to belong to them, then what we ought to be, not that I would agree with it, what we ought to be saying is to the club, well, don't bother entering it. Don't bother entering it, right? But that's not my view at all. And last season was the classic case. Sheffield United got promoted. Oh, and by the way, they got to the semi-final of the FA Cup. Didn't turn out to be no distraction, by the way, along the way. They got there, so they got promoted to the Premier League, and they also had a nice earner in the semi-final, and everyone was a winner, right? So this idea, but you see, the point about it is this. What other championship clubs do or don't do, I don't give a toss about what they do. That's entirely up to them. What I'm interested in is what we do. I turned up there that night. No, I didn't think I expected to win the game. I didn't think all we had to do was just roll over, just turn up and they were going to roll over, right? But it was I mean, that game has to be, and it's no good just sort of dismissing it and sort of, that game has to be one of the worst games I've ever seen down at the Den. Ever. You're bearing in mind we were playing a team that had fielded 8 or 9 under 21s in that team, right? And they played us off the park. And because what was interesting, equally interesting, was I was watching the position of the goalkeeper. Now, bearing in mind all this grief that's gone on towards Long, right? You know, I mean, I was reading stories about people were saying that, you know, what we ought to do is we all turn up at the ground, and when the team comes out against, for example, if we were playing Bristol City this week, that we're all standing there to convince Gary Rowett, right, that that the fans don't want Long, that they wanted Bart. We ought to be standing there all singing, "We want Bart." I mean, that'd have gone down real great, wouldn't it? You know, you've got a player there in a full ground, right, with the opposition and the opposition supporters sitting there, listening to a lot of our people saying we don't want that bloke. That would have done his confidence a lot of good. But as it happens, we've now been overtaken by events, okay? He bought the goalkeeper. Now, Bart, I mean, he's a good goalkeeper, no question about how many. We voted for him twice, didn't we? He is the supporters player of the year, and deservedly so. But I watched him that night. Right, all right. He might not have had a lot of luck in relationship to the first one, because to be fair, it was only after about a minute, so we'd hardly even got out of first gear, in fairness. But the second and the third one, I'll tell you this: if that had been Long he conceded, then there'd have been hell to pay. There would have been hell to pay, right? And it got to the point, and my only argument with Long is the fact he's made his mistakes and whatever. Well, tell me a goalkeeper that don't make mistakes. They all do. Exactly. And my only argument with him was his distribution of the ball, because Long kept sending it long, right? But I watched Bart in them 2 games. Every time he handled the ball, it was as if he was handling an hand grenade, right? He couldn't, and when he got to his feet, he was kicking it as if it was a bomb. He couldn't get rid of it right quick enough, right? And we were being given the runaround, and to some degree, I felt sorry for him. Now, you know, I'm not interested.
Stan, quick question at that point. You're saying about Long kicking the ball long.
Yeah.
You sure that's not his choice? You sure that's not from someone else?
Well, it might well be. I mean, in fairness, he may well be under instructions to do that. And if he is, that concerns me.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is, that's my only problem with him, right? But all right, it looks like he's going to go now, and fair enough. I mean, I had to smile when I'm sitting there watching the Sit Art friendly the other week, right? They scored their equaliser, and within a minute, because I had my phone on, and I was fortunate really, because I had this Facebook site on. All of a sudden, bing, bloke's put on there. Oh, he never even attempted to save the ball, right?
He did.
Straight. No, I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying what I'm saying is we were getting to a point with Long, right? Or people was he only had to come out and look the wrong way, and they were getting ready to slaughter the bloke, right? And I had a certain amount of sympathy for him. Okay, we've now got our new goalkeeper, and that's fine. But I just, to go out and lose 4-0, I mean, we were humiliated, being no doubt about that. And because, they was moving the ball around, at times we were chasing shadows. Now, if we play like that Saturday, and I'm talking about...
We won't, Stan. We won't.
Well, hopefully we won't do.
Yeah, look, listen, you're talking with a lot of emotion, and I understand that because we lost 4-0. But you have to look into it deeper, mate, in the sense that, I'm sorry, you're right. I understand what you're saying because you're a fan. You want to see us go out and win every game. But that's unfortunately, for the last God knows how many seasons, the League Cup has not really meant anything to any championship side because most of them go out of it. And the reason being for that, it comes very early in the season after they've just got going in the league. And what it looked like to me the other night, and you tell me if I'm wrong, when we started against Charlton in the pre-season friendly, we was all over the place. We was all over the place against a side like Charlton that ain't going to probably finish mid-table in that league. Reading, I think, looked an half-decent side there. They may get a bit higher. But the bottom line is, we played the game in my opinion, a bit like it was a friendly, in the sense that that's how the players played it. But they won't be playing a friendly against Bristol City. I can assure you that they'll be flying into tackles, and at the end of the day, I don't know how you even get a team. I used to get frustrated at friendlies when I went to a friendly game, thinking, "What are you doing there?" But they're all doing things with a purpose. And listen, the biggest thing that Gary Rowett wanted to happen on the other night was to come through without any injuries. And what happens? Murray Wallace gets banged up in the first few minutes with a clash of heads. So I don't believe. I mean, Joe Bryan, who I think is a brilliant player, I think he was looking to rest him. But what I'm saying is, it's a matter of priorities, whether we like it or not, Stan. The manager's priority is Saturday. That game the other night is no. I'm not saying for 1 minute he didn't send his side out to lose 4-0. We know he didn't. And he didn't expect to lose 4-0. I'm sure he didn't. But the bottom line is that little bit extra bit of competitiveness, which will come next week in the league game, will be there. There was positives the other night. Amaku was good again. SA was good again. You know. There's a lot of players that have come back in on Saturday, like Denori, Watmore, that will make the team different as well. So you've got to put it in perspective.
No, that's right. I mean, I get all that, Ted. I mean, all I'm saying is we played Charlton in a friendly, all right. And if you look at, if you can, I mean, it's not strictly the same, but what I'm saying is we put in a decent, in comparison to the other night, the performance against Charlton was okay, right? And then when we played City, and it was going to be a different game anyway because it's continental opposition, but again, you know, we put in a decent performance. And I only saw it. You were there Saturday, Ted. I wasn't, but I saw the thing. And I was glad because I agree with you. Middlesbrough are going to be one of the teams that it's going to be up there. And I think in the automatic spots myself. So any result you got out of there other than a defeat is a victory, even if it had been a draw, if you know what I mean. But no, I mean, I get all that. But what I'm saying is if you know, I just sat there. I mean, and all our players that we've signed, I think they're all potential good players. I haven't seen one bad player yet. In fairness, they've all been good players. But I just sat there and I thought to myself, I just can't believe what I'm watching here. And all I'm getting at is that we should be looking at, because you know, performances like that. If we start getting into the habit of them sort of performances, I mean, it's just unacceptable.
Stan, if they perform like that on Saturday, I'll leave me out anyway. But if they do perform like that on Saturday, then we will need to start to worry a bit.
Well, the only thing I'm
99% sure that we will have a performance on Saturday that will match what we see at Middlesbrough.
No. I mean, I would agree. The only thing I would discount Saturday for this reason, right? I understand, Ted, and in principle I agree with you. But I think on Saturday, it's going to be different anyway because of the circumstances surrounding the game, right? I think everybody's going to... So it's all going to be rather emotional on Saturday.
Well, on that point, I actually said to a mate of mine at half-time, and he said to me, they seem to be on... I said, think about the game coming up Saturday. Rightly or wrongly, people will want to be playing Saturday rather than out there playing now. And he said, what do you mean by that? I said, mentally, it gets in your brain. And you don't, that little percentage that is the full commitment of a tackle or getting the ball back and that sort of thing just goes missing a little bit for whatever reason. And I generally think one of them reasons the other night, and again, I'm not making excuses, this is what I believe. I talk in what I believe in reality, that some players were out there the other night, a bit like in a friendly against Sittard, and I'm going to get injured in that game because the next week's the proper game. And I think there was a little bit of that, rightly or wrongly, the other night in players' performances, because they want to be there on Saturday, because Saturday is a big game for the reasons you're talking about. It's also a big game because it's the next league game.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's right, yeah.
Well, on that note,
anyway,
very interesting discussion. And no, you're absolutely right, Stan. You make valid points, and we all make valid points as well. And that's why we do what we do at the beginning of the show. So, dearest Pat wants to say that the Blue Anchor Public House is now selling our programme pre-game. So if you pop in for a beer, why not pick one up? Right, we will take a break there and listen to our sponsors GM Motors.
Hi, this is Jess Tuffield from G&M Motors. Operating from a modern and purpose-built facility in Milton Road, Gravesend, G&M Motors offers a complete range of new Honda cars and services. As well as new Hondas, we have an extensive range of used cars, including ex-Motability cars from a variety of manufacturers. Specialising in new Honda cars, G&M Motors has been retailing quality new and used vehicles to the people of Kent and South East London for over 4 decades. We have been a Honda dealership since 1972 and are the country's longest serving supplier of this renowned marque. Conveniently sited just 2 miles from the A2, 10 miles from the M25 and Dartford Crossing, visitors to our showroom are assured a warm welcome from our experienced and friendly staff. Our facilities include an on-site workshop capable of providing full vehicle servicing and repairs, as well as an extensive parts department offering genuine Honda parts and accessories. The expertise of our skilled mechanics is not limited to just Hondas, but extends to most makes and models of motor vehicles. Whatever your motoring needs, visit us at G&M Motors today. The newly extended hours of our G&M headquarters means that you can contact us from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. on Saturdays. To contact us, call us today on 01474 365 026.
Thank you, Jess. Debbie Julian's here. Don't forget to call Jess on 01474 81 3562. G&M Motors have been dear friends with the Julians family for over 4 decades now. From my dad Lenny to me, Debbie, Lions together.
I'm Gary, and with me I have the No One Likes a Talking team of Ted, Dave and Stan. Thanks once again, G&M Motors, for your support. Our first guest this evening is very much another friend of the show. He was born in Bishop Stortford on the 18th of April 1947. He played in goal for Chelmsford, Coventry and, of course, 380 times for the Lions. He joined the Lions in 1976 and stayed for 8 seasons. After hanging his gloves up in 1976, he went on to manage in Sweden and Norway, where he currently resides. This gentleman is also known for scouting for Spurs, Aston Villa and Everton. And recently he had a book out called The Lion King. I think you're all shouting at the radio and knowing his name. Welcome to the show, Mr. Bryan King. Welcome to the show,
Thanks
Bryan.
very much. Thank you very much. Very impressive. Is it really me?
I can't believe it. 1976 was the year I was born, Bryan, so we don't want to work the maths out.
I wish it was the year I was born.
Bless you.
I'm near your birthday, Bryan.
I'm even closer.
Come on, Stan.
Before I let you off, guys, to the guys, Bryan, you recently had a spell of being quite poorly. I hope you're feeling better now. How are you feeling, mate?
I'm fine. I've had all the necessary treatment. I've had the OK from my doctors where I went to have a 1 yearly check. So I'm up and running. I'm fit for a game. Not sure whether I'll get back in the Millwall team with all them goalkeepers.
That's the point. Well, one's trying to move on, as we were just discussing. You'll find out when you listen back what that was all about. Ted, I'll start with yourself. Over to you go.
Right, evening, Bryan.
Good evening.
Lovely to speak to you again. So, Bryan, you're considered a legend among the Millwall faithful. Quite rightly so, in my opinion. You are my number one goalkeeper of all time. But of all of your 380 games for the Lions, which one stands out in your memory, Bryan?
Well, I suppose the one when we played Huddersfield, funnily enough, because there's a certain manager there who I've been told was coming to see how myself and Barry Kitchener were performing. And it was Sir Alf Ramsey. And from that point, I got called into a couple of England squads and then finally got picked for the England-Portugal game in Portugal, which obviously was a great honour for me and for the club. And on that day, we won 1-0. I had a couple of good saves from Frank Worthington, who was playing for Huddersfield then. But all I can remember was that Sir Alf Ramsey was going to be there. And, as nervous as you are and as nervous as you might feel, I just ended up playing a half-decent game. And from that, he must have made a note and And luckily enough, I got picked for an England squad. And as I said before, it was a great honour for me, and it was a great honour for the club and my family and everybody. So I was well pleased with that game, I must admit. I think Alf told me afterwards he had quite an exciting trip from Ipswich to the old Den, which made a few laughs. And apart from that, I suppose Everton away that day in the fourth round of the FA Cup, I was very fortunate in the first half. Had a few good saves, kept us in it, and we managed to go on and win. It was a great day for us. Unfortunately, the draw in the fifth round was not what we were looking for. It was away to Wolves, who were a very good side at that time. But I suppose those two games, and well, I think every game I played for Millwall was very special for me because I got a great affection for Millwall Football Club, and especially the old Den. Great place to learn your trade. The fans were wonderful. Not at the start, but they put me under pressure. So I think it made me a better goalkeeper. It made me a better person. And I'll always be grateful to them. And Millwall Football Club, of course.
Evening, Brian. It's Dave here.
Oh, Dave.
It's very nice to talk to you. It is one of my favourites as well. Anyway, cut to the chase. You made your debut for Millwall in the 67-68 season when you took over the goalkeeping shirt from Laurie Leslie, and you kept that shirt until the 74-75 season when Ray Goddard took over.
That's right.
How did your debut come about with Millwall? And can you tell us about the end of your career when you was playing with the Lions?
Well, obviously I just signed in the June of 67, and I was obviously brought to be a number two to Laurie, wonderful goalkeeper, brave man, and taught me a lot, always spoke to me. It seemed strange that he was coaching me to take over his place, I suppose. But it was, I got wind because I'd already played in a League Cup game against Northampton. It was a game at the Den, which we won 5-1. So I'd already got a taste of what playing in front of the frightful Millwall crowd, as I kept being told, they're scared to death and all this kind of stuff. And I must admit, running out on that pitch that night, it was a great experience. But I got wind that Laurie had been injured and the week previous, and Benny had said to me, do you think you're ready? How do you feel? Yeah, I'm okay. If I've got to play, I'll play. But I was told then on the Monday that Laurie wouldn't be able to play, and we were going to play Blackpool. And Blackpool at the time were number one in the league. So it's going to be a big game. I had, funnily enough, I think we had a coach load of people come up from Stansted. The people from Chelmsford came as well and played in the game. And it was a great atmosphere. I think there was about 20,000 people there that night. Always good to play a night game at the old Den, and atmosphere was wonderful. And we drew one each. Some people said that maybe I could have made a better effort for the goal, but if you could see the goal, it was a shot by, funnily enough, my manager at Coventry City, Gordon Milne. And he got a deflection off of Harry Cripps. I managed to block it, but the ball went a little bit away as I got up to try and make the second save. I think it was Jerry Ingram scored, and it ended up 1-1. But I was pleased with my performance up to a point, I suppose. I could have done a little bit better with a goal, but I got told by some supporters afterwards that I was not as good as Laurie Leslie or Alex Stepney in rather a fearsome tone, as you might say. I won't say the words, but we've all been brought up properly. But it made me think. But that was life then. That was life. And I went on that season actually to play about 17, 18 games, which for me seemed to come early. You know, I'd only just signed for the club, and to make that amount of games in my first season was encouraging. And I think Laurie realised that he might get a bit of stiff opposition here, and especially competition. So from that time on, really, once I got into the team, I think I made 5 or 6 seasons. I think I missed 1 or 2 games. I think, and I set a record for the most consecutive games. I'd set a record also when my last game come for Millwall for the goalkeeper who made the most league appearances, which I think is about 302. And that record still hasn't been beaten, which pleases me to think that I'm still the record holder of league appearances for Millwall. But of course, we left on a not such a good note because we got relegated that year. Benny had gone. Gordon Jago came in. He wanted to rebuild the team, and he said to me, "Look, we've spoken with the board. I want to bring in some new players. Brian, would you be prepared to go? You've got Ipswich, you've got Coventry. I know they're interested. They both want to make an offer for you." So I said, "Well, if it's going to help you, the club," and obviously it did because they got promotion that year. But the money from me was used to bring in Trevor Lee, Phil Walker, and these kind of players. And Millwall moved on, and we played Millwall the following season for my testimonial game. And I believe it's the only testimonial game that got abandoned 10 minutes from the end because Coventry scored, and the Coventry player obviously went to the Coldblow Lane end and made a little bit of a fuss about scoring, and not a sensible thing to do at any time. And there seemed to be an awful lot of people come on the pitch, which brought an end to the game. But, you know, as I say, my time at Millwall, 8 years and 302 league games and friendlies and cup games and everything. I think it goes past 400, you know. But it was a great period of my life, a great period. And it's such a wonderful club. I mean, when I come down there now, and what's it, 40 years since I played, nearly 50 years since I played, and people still talk to me, you know, it's maybe not the young people, but it's the grandfathers and the fathers, and I'm very humble about the way people still remember me, and I'm very grateful, and so is my family.
Yes, you were one of the best goalkeepers of those years, the 60s and 70s. For me, Brian, we had some cracking goalkeepers, and you were definitely a standout goalkeeper then.
Thanks, Dave.
Right, yeah, well, all right, Brian, Stan here, mate. Well, I have to say, in a follow-on from that, out of all the goalkeepers we've had down at Millwall, and all the ones I've ever seen, by a country mile, you're better than any of them. So, you know, and the word legend gets bounded around a lot these days, which is not something new, but in your case, that's certainly, you know, nobody could argue that. And to be fair, when I've heard it said, I've never heard anybody dispute that anyway. So your legendary status is secure, mate. And no, I mean, you know, it's you was an exceptional goalkeeper. Without that, and the game that you talked about, Northampton, I was at that game, but yeah, but I remember that game very, very well. Anyway, mate, you played talking about legends. You played alongside some legends like Kitch, Gordon Hill, Harry, Dunphy, Posse, Weller, and even Alan Dorney. What would they like to play alongside?
Well, most of, you know, Alan Dorney, myself, Eamon to an extent, and I started in the reserves, so I was playing with Alan, also with Barry Kitch, and I mean, it was just a great bunch of lads. I mean, we all complimented one another. They were good players. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that, but Kitch was my roommate for nearly 8 years, and for all his faults, I know I probably had some and all, but he was a great roommate and a great mate and a great player. I was so upset really when at a period when we were both look as though we were going to be moving, myself to Leeds and him to Liverpool. But it didn't materialise, because I don't think the club were made the right offers money-wise. I know that I lost out to David Harvey and Kitch lost out to Larry Lloyd. But it didn't take away the fact that the players that we had at Millwall, I joined when Keith Weller, Derek Posse, Dennis Burnett joined the club. And I was probably the lightweight at the time. I cost $5,000 and the Posse was 25, Keith was 15, Dennis was about 20. So we all joined the club at the same time in '67. And funnily enough, I played against Keith and the Posse in the Metropolitan League when I was at Chelmsford. They were playing for Tottenham A team and I was playing for Chelmsford Reserves. So it was strange that our paths would meet and we'd be playing for the same club 2 or 3 years later. But great players, and Keith Weather was a fine player. I mean, as was everybody. You had Posh, you had Barry Bridges, you had a character called Harry Cripps, as we all know. I mean, Barry Bridges came along, Alf Wood come in, Merlin, Gordon Hill, another player who was brought to the club, for a set of shirts. but he turned out to be a great little player. I mean, he was unorthodox in a lot of things, but had great skill and was a hell of a finisher. I mean, he used to annoy me in bloody training. He really did. I mean, the times he used to tuck things in off the post. I mean, and it was never luck. I mean, he used to do it time and time again. But great memories for me and some great names and great players.
Bryan, you was talking about your England cap and whatever. I'd actually think if you'd have been in goal in 1970, we'd have won the World Cup. Because there was only one other goalkeeper that would have made the save that Gordon Banks did, and that was you. I don't think the others were capable. But I generally think that if you'd have been there, mate, we probably would have won it. Anyway, after your footballing career finished, Bryan, you went on to scouting. That's right, isn't it? And did you manage to find any gems?
Well, I didn't actually go into scouting because I was at Coventry. I finished at Coventry, of course. So I worked with the youth team for nearly a year, and I just missed playing, and I just missed, not being able to play really. And I got an offer through the FA and an old manager called Bertie Mee, who was Arsenal manager. And they asked me if I'd ever thought about going abroad and managing or coaching, because I was a staff coach at that time. I worked for the FA doing FA courses and things. And I said, well, I could always have a look at it, which I did in Norway. And that led me to a little town in Norway called Grimstad and a club called Jerv. And that's where my managing career started, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The country was good, and settled in. We had a little bit of a problem with my wife's mother because she got cancer, and my wife had to go home and nurse her and take the children as well, and so that unnerved us a little bit and made things a bit harder than they should have done. But I enjoyed my time managing. We had the first year when I was managing, we had Chelsea over for pre-season 1 year. We had Crystal Palace over for pre-season another year. We played Newcastle United. The managers at the time were Ken Shellito at Chelsea, Terry Venables at Crystal Palace, and dear old Jim Smith at Newcastle. But regarding the scouting, I've done practically 15 years of managing over here and in Sweden. I had 7 promotions in that time. We found a lot of good young players in our clubs that I was manager of, who went on to play international football. Not top internet, although one of them did, and he became a very, very famous player, and that's Henning Berg, who I've just been speaking to. Funny enough, just before you come through, because he's just taken over the manager of AIK Stockholm, and I've just been having a chat with him and how we first met one another and how I encouraged him as a kid, and I got him to Manchester United for a trial, and Alec Ferguson liked him a lot. Couldn't sign him because he never really played top international football. But just going back over, I've got things like from Ron Atkinson. I found Ron Atkinson a player called Roland Nilsson, a fullback from Sweden. He went on to play for Sheffield Wednesday, went on to play for Coventry. He's also a manager at Coventry, and he played over 100 times for Sweden. Olaf Mellberg I took to Aston Villa, and dear old John Gregory says to me that probably the best signing he ever made, which makes me feel okay. And Everton, we've had, well, there's a story that Duncan Ferguson, the old centre forward, put in the newspaper that I took Erling Haaland to Everton when he was 15. And we could have signed him for €50,000 compensation. But for some reason, they didn't fancy him. They said, he's too big. When all the people around him grow up and as big as him, he won't be as effective. I spoke to someone at Everton last year. I said, it's a shame he's not as effective as he was when you saw him, eh? I mean, what's he worth now? 150 million?
Yeah.
I had a big hand in, when I was at Tottenham, bringing Luka Modric into Tottenham. Saw him as a kid and brought him in. And, of course, Luka is, or has, and still is, one of the great players in the world. I mean, plays for Real Madrid, and again, he's as humble as I am when I come to him. Whenever he sees me, you made my career and all this stuff, and I feel very, very humble when he tells me that. I'm such a great player. But these are the things that please you when you're scouting. I've found young players, and we took not so long ago. I had a young left back who played for AFC Copenhagen, a boy from Costa Rica, Brian Oviedo. We signed him for £1 million at Everton, and sold him to Sunderland for £8.5 million. So those are the things. The same with Modric. When you look at Haaland, you start to think, well, okay, we ain't on big money as scouts, but it's not all about money. It's about the reward of finding it and get the thing carried out, joining the football club, and it pleases you. It pleases you when these players are successful. There are obviously players you recommend that ain't so successful, or the club says no to, as they did Erling Haaland at the time. But it's all about opinions. I'll be interested to see how the new signings come through for Millwall. I've never really had any great contact with Millwall regarding any kind of scouting or maybe helping the club out in this area where I live. So they obviously have enough people to look after that side of it. So good luck to them.
You're obviously up to date with the Lions from Norway. What do you make of Millwall's transfer activity this year and our recent dipping into the European market?
Well, the boy they got from Belgium, I think I let both Stan and Eamon know that he's a decent player, a very good lad, good temperament, can play in several positions. The goalkeeper, funnily enough, he was at Aston Villa. When I was at Aston Villa, he was there as a young goalkeeper. very nice lad. Very nice lad. Hasn't really had a great run apart from at Birmingham, where he performed quite well for them. He'll be interesting to see how he settles in. And I always say that you've got enough competition there now to see who's going to be your number one. The boy Sarkic has not really had a great consistent run apart from Birmingham, as I said. George Long, everybody seemed to criticise George Long last year, and I thought wrongly, to be honest, because around his feet, George is very good. His distribution is good. He's quick around the box. He's a good size. Just as the boy Sarkic is, they're practically the same age. George has had more experience than him, but Sarkic has been bought for 1.2 million. So I don't think there's going to be any dispute who's going to start, is there? Whether it's Sarkic, Long, or Balkowski. Bartox is 36 years of age. I was beginning to fear he might get near my record, but he's got a few years to go yet, a few more appearances. And these two, it's going to take him a fair while to get up to 300. But it'll be interesting to see who's number one. But I think the number one, and he seemed to do. He looked confident on Saturday against Middlesbrough. Long has obviously had his nose pushed out here now. He's going to be a bit upset. He's going to get irritated. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, he'll be moving on." But I think it's far too easy to blame him for last year. It's not only him. He didn't cause you to miss out on the playoffs. I think it was a team effort, and it's very easy to blame one man. And I thought it was wrong to blame him. Bartos has proved that he is a steady goalkeeper. Needs to do a lot more for me, to be honest. With all the experience that he's got, he should have been commanding that box a lot more for me. But it'll be interesting to see how Sarkic does. I hope he does well. I hope if any one of the three plays, I hope they all do well for Millwall. So regarding the other boy, I mean the goal the young boy scored on Saturday. What a goal that was! Unbelievable. I mean, was that his first goal for the club in the league?
Yeah.
It's not a bad way to open your account, is it? Good God.
No, not at all.
But that was a solid performance. I mean, up there ain't easy. And it was a good start. We defended well. Where in the past we seem to have been giving goals away in the last 10 or 15 minutes. But we looked well organised. I mean, we looked a good team. There was no luck about the result. I thought we looked a good side. We played good football. And then came this game in the week, which I didn't see. And I certainly didn't see the result coming, that's for sure. I suppose you gentlemen saw the game, but I haven't had a chance to see it. But, 4-0 at home to Reading. Couldn't believe it.
I know what you mean, Brian, and most of that Reading team were under 21 players.
Good God.
It just goes to show. Yeah, it just goes to show you. But anyway, Brian. Sorry, Dave. Have you finished?
Yes, go ahead, Stan.
Right. Okay, Brian. I'm interested in your point of view on a couple of things. Now, you as a goalkeeper, I'd be interested in your take. Now, if you was, we all know that the back pass rule has been around for some considerable time now. Now, all right, when you was in goal, that simply wasn't an issue. But if you was playing today, how do you think that you would get on with that?
I stand. Remember, I'm 76, mate. I might struggle a bit.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I'm only 6 years younger than you, but anyway.
Well, you wouldn't want to go out and play now, I can assure. No,
true.
We always used to work at least once a week. I used to either play up front. Well, I'd usually play up front or play out. So it was always working on right or left foot, whether you were kicking out your hands. But when I first started, of course, you didn't have to worry about when the ball got played back to you. It's quite easy to have a back pass and pick it up, but the centre forwards could then come after you and hammer you into the ground. And there were a few centre forwards about who would hammer you into the ground. But no, I'd quite fancy that, to be honest. I'd never had a problem kicking the ball, whether it's out my hands or off the floor, right or left foot. But it certainly makes it interesting. You'd certainly want your defenders playing balls back to you, so it makes your job easier. But when I've seen a couple of goalkeepers trying to deal with stuff around the feet, well, not the best as we would say. But I think I'd quite enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, just to follow on from that, Brian, I mean, it's not Millwall, but it's the same sort of thing. I mean, it shows you how it is these days. But when Man United, or their manager Ten Hag, was saying he wanted to sign a goalkeeper for this season, right? I mean, all right, they've got the guy in now from who was it, Inter Milan, but when he was being interviewed, and all he kept talking about was what he was looking for a goalkeeper whose distribution with his feet was first class. I mean, the fact, he could save with his hands, or that was all a given. He was, that was what he was looking for, a goalkeeper with better distribution with his feet. I mean, it sounds a bit, what's your take on all that? But it seems a bit strange, doesn't it, in a way, although it's the norm now, I suppose.
Well, I'll be very interested to see how this fella does, because if you think De Gea, who played an awful lot of games, he made mistakes when stuff was around his feet. He also made mistakes when people hit balls at him. But I've got a mate who lives in Amsterdam, an Englishman, who works for a Premier League club as a scout, and he's watched him a lot. And he said, this is going to be interesting, because this bloke, he takes chances like you won't believe. And as good as he is around his feet, supposedly, mistakes seem to follow him. So it's going to be interesting. And what did they spend on him? 50 million, 45 million?
A lot of money. I mean, I watched him last season in Serie A, and to be fair, he was top notch as a keeper all round. But I mean, obviously, they spent a lot of dough on him,
and they spent a lot on a centre forward as well. Again, a player that we followed, and to think they pay that kind of money, that surprised me a lot. They paid 150 million for the two. I mean, good God. 150 million for the two. They'd not only buy Millwall, I think they'd buy Charlton as well, wouldn't it? And Crystal Palace.
Dear. Well, on that note, Brian, just going to say, it's been absolutely a real pleasure. We need to get a prediction from you at this point. Obviously, a very sad day on Saturday, but what would you reckon the result will be against Bristol City on Saturday, Brian?
Well, I'm hoping for the occasion, and I'm hoping for the supporters in the club that Millwall win by. I'll be happy with 1-0, but as long as we can produce a performance which will benefit the occasion and make the chairman happy and his family happy, because then it'll make the club and the fans happy, and that's all I worry about. Come on, you Lions, let's get a result and show the chairman exactly what we're about. Let's see how far we've come here. 6 points, 2 games, that'll do for me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brian.
With
Brian,
thank you, gentlemen.
That could have gone on for hours. We
Yes, Brian.
realised. And absolutely brilliant.
Thanks a lot, Brian.
Brian, we're here from some neighbours down the road, which I'm sure you're aware of, Fisher Athletic. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Okay, lovely. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye, lads. Bye. Bye.
Hi, I'm Paul, a Millwall and Fisher FC supporter. There's always been strong links between our clubs, and as such, Fisher FC would like to remind Millwall season ticket holders and supporters club members that entry To watch Fisher, it's just a fiver if you show your card at the gate.
Brilliant. Let's not forget, if on the away days when you can't get to see the lines, why not follow our neighbours down there at Fisher Athletic? Next up, our lovely Ellice Barr.
Hello, Ellice here, and I'm glad to be back talking about Millwall. I know many have watched my videos, so you will all know that I don't wear splints as much anymore. I'm really looking forward to starting secondary school in September. Thanks for your support along the way. It is now time to hear what all the Millwall teams are up to, and what is next for Garion Rollett's Lions. Come on, Millwall!
Thanks, Ellis, and keep up the videos. No Jeff or Paul this week, so straight on to the first team action, which will make George happy because he's got to edit this. So next up is the for the Lions is Bristol City. And cheers, guys. We had an interlude there. You gave me a little bit of information I can pop into here now. They opened their season with a 1-1 draw at home to Preston. Nigel Pearson is now in his second season as manager and will be looking to improve on the 14th place last season. Saturday for the Lions will also be a very emotional day, with a day dedicated to our ex-chairman, John Berylson. And the bit of news I got in between, which I wasn't aware of, is that Alex Scott, their Maverick midfielder, has now been sold to for 20 million, which will have a bit of an impact on Saturday. Ted, I'll start with you. So a bit about this game and a prediction, please.
I just hope the day is what we all want it to be, i.e. a fabulous day showing, our emotions for the Berylson family and what John actually meant to us all. And then we go out and put a performance on worthy of that occasion. And I believe we will. I think Bristol City are a bit of an up and down side. I see them really like a bit of a mid-table team this year. They're a decent side, but I just think, and I hope and pray that we can bring the sort of form into the game that we showed at Middlesbrough. And I think if we do that and we get on a roll, get a goal early, I can see us winning. I'm going to go conservatively with a 2-0, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if it's more than that.
Dave?
Yeah, it's a day that we're all looking forward to in lots of different ways, because the emotion is going to be high, and hopefully us as fans will survive it, because as I say, it's one of those things that is not going to be nice, but hopefully the football will take over and we'll be able to show our chairman just what he meant to the club. So going with that, I'll follow with Ted and I'll go for 2-0 as well.
And of course, Stan.
Well, I mean, I fully agree with what Ted says in terms of how we would play and hopefully it all goes right and all that sort of thing. I mean, I don't think no one can really disagree with that. I'm just hoping that, on the day, it's apart from winning the game, what I want to do, I'd like to see it be a very memorable game, right? Because, JB's been the best chairman we've had. There's just no one like him, and he and his family, deserve the full, the best we can achieve that day. And the victory, I agree with Ted and Dave, and let's just hope it's a good day all round, victory wise, performance wise, and hopefully everybody has come out at the end of the game a lot happier than they was before they went in it.
Indeed. I can't disagree. Quick prediction, Stan?
Oh, I think Millwall will win 2-0.
So 3-2-0 so far. I just want it to be a really wonderful day. And no stupid people doing stupid things, because the away stand has been split in half. But it is going to be a sad day. It'll be very, very emotional. But I can't disagree. I think it'd be 2-3-0 as well. And I think we'll be sitting on 6 points come 5 o'clock. Well, 5:30, judging by how long these games are going on now. on Saturday afternoon.
Gary, it's a good point you make. I mean, us as fans can make it a memorable day, and make it a memorable day for all the right reasons, not for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
because a full house down at the Den can be a fantastic place, but it also sometimes brings a few idiots in. And I would plead with any Millwall fan that's near any idiot that starts to do or look like doing anything stupid, grab hold of him by the scruff of the neck and throw him out, because there's no place for that on Saturday at all.
Exactly.
It's make sure it's a memorable day for all the right reasons.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm just to add to that, and I agree with what Ted says, because, we're going to have, on that day, we're going to have the media there, aren't we? And they're going to be there in force, right? And you've only got to get one plank, start messing about, and that's all that we'll hear about, We'll be posted that, how we insulted the chairman's memory and his family and all this sort of stuff. I mean, these people will be sitting there waiting for something like that.
Of course they will. Well, that's what they said as well, Stan. Just to say, I heard one Stan say, you're asking for trouble doing that. But let's have a look around the country. Every single club in the country has got their away fans segregated by some black tarpaulin. Why when we do it, we got to be careful. Well, I know we've got idiots, but you know what I mean. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but that's right. But I'm just not talking about the splitting of the stand, so to speak. I'm talking about in general. Everywhere.
Exactly. Okay, fingers crossed. It is the day that John gets that we all want it to be. We'll take a break there and hear from Fantastic Fanatics, and can do for you with a little bit of help from ourselves. That's all of us.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club, and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing, and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm your host, Gary Staff, and with me, after no one likes a talking team of Ted, Dave and Stan. With summer holidays ongoing, why not spend through the Fantastic Fanatics site and give a summertime bonus to the Millwall Community Trust, which will help them deliver such activity as school holiday camps, walking football and other sports for the over 50s and more. So, on to tonight's second guest. Tonight's second guest is a local lad who now hails from Sicily, and he runs in the Millwall Sicily site on Facebook. Without further ado, let's welcome friend of the show, and in particular Ted Robinson, yes, Nick With.
Hello everybody.
Hi Nick, how you doing?
All right, Nick.
I'm good, thanks. Good evening everyone.
Nick,
hello.
Before I pass you to Ted, who's got the first question, how have you been coping out there? I'm going out to Spain in about a week's time, but what's it been like over in Sicily with the weather-wise?
Well, if you're going to Spain, you better bring some oxygen, that's all I'm telling you. Today it was 27, 28. It's been like that for about a week. It peaked a couple of weeks ago. It was 42 for about 5 days. Wow. And actually my car one morning, although it was out in the open, it must be said, it was actually 50 degrees inside there.
Wow.
So when it's about 42, 43, basically what you do, you either stay indoors in front of the air conditioner for about 4 hours when it's really hot. And then you go and have a dip in the sea, or, just drink a lot of cold beer. That's what I do.
Fair enough. Ted, he's all yours.
Hello, he's Ted. All mine. You're all mine, Nick. In 30 years at a place that still gets called the New Den, which does make me laugh, I've got to be honest. But I suppose it'd never be the old Den, will it? What's your most memorable game that you've seen there?
Oh, dear. Well... Yeah, it's a shame about the new Den because I've got lots of good memories about the old Den. But if we're sticking to the new Den, apart from the cup games, the Everton and the Leicester games, I'd have to say that West Ham game when we beat them 4-1, simply because of the atmosphere that was there. We beat West Ham, of course. And it was the only game that I've ever watched, I'm sure, where there were 3 penalties, 2 of which we missed, one of which they scored. Yeah. Their goalkeeper was sent off from memory. I think it was Bywater.
Yeah, it was.
and Cahill scored a couple that day, I think. And there was an own goal. I think West Ham scored an own goal. And we still managed to win 4-1. And I think that was 2004. And that year, I think we finished about mid-table. And I think West Ham made the playoff final and they lost to Crystal Palace, if memory serves me right, which really serves them right, doesn't it? But I mean, for the atmosphere, I think that was probably the best game I'd seen.
And Nick, I think we played quite a big game that season as well.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm trying not to talk about that one, but I mean, yeah.
I mean the one at Sunderland, Nick. I mean,
the Sunderland one. Of course, I watched that on TV. I couldn't get there. Fantastic day for everybody. I mean, the Sunderland result and everything, and then of course onwards to the FA Cup final, which I couldn't get to myself anyway. But no, for me, the West Ham game in the old den, definitely.
And I think we even made Christian Daly the man of the match, didn't we, for his own goal?
That's right. Yeah, I think we did actually. Yeah.
Well, we serves me right. Didn't he come back the next season or whatever it was?
He came back with Charlton and done the same thing.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? He scored 2 own goals in 2 games against us.
He's always my favourite defender.
Yeah, I'd actually forgotten about that. He did do that, didn't he? Yeah. Millwall legend, another one.
The penalty that Tim missed was because he sat on the ball. He sat on the ball for a good few minutes before he took the penalty, which made the ball.
Yeah, and he missed it by miles. I remember that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stan? Sorry, Dave.
Nick, look, my sympathies to you, mate. I recently had a couple of weeks in Malta. So, 42 degrees, I know all about that. So, let's get on with this. The players that we brought in so far this season, how do you think it's going to enhance our side moving forward?
Well, I think the 5 he's brought in have definitely strengthened the squad. I mean, when do you think we got rid of Malone and Bennett, who for me weren't championship players by the time we let them go? And the 4, I think we had 4, didn't we, on who played for us on Cresswell, Shackleton, Stoles and Burke. They went back after being on loan. I'm very impressed with the players he's brought in. I mean, Nisbet, he looks really good to me. I've only seen him for a couple of games, but I mean, he looks really tasty. And the goalkeeper, Sarkic, although I've only seen him play once, I mean, he's got to be an improvement on our current goalkeepers. I mean, Bart had an absolute mare against Reading, didn't he? And I mean, George Long last season, I mean, he's had his good games, but for me, he's no longer a championship-level goalkeeper. And I don't think we've really had a good goalkeeper at Millwall for 2 or 3 seasons now. And I'm going back as far as, Jordan Archer, who was, for me, probably one of the worst Millwall goalkeepers I've ever seen. So with the players that they brought in, I think Nisbet is a big bonus for us. I'd like to see him start with Bradshaw once, because I don't think he's done that yet. This Joe Bryan looks like a good signing on a free, from what I understand of it. Harding, I think, has been brought in to give McNamara a kick up the backside. And Casper Denori, don't know anything about him at all. I've only seen highlights of him, but everyone rants and raves about him. So there's some good competition in the team now. So I'm hopeful and optimistic it's going to be a really good season. I definitely think it's improved the squad.
Nick, what's the teams we've now got in the Championship? I mean, I would say that it's personally speaking, this is the strongest Championship on paper anyway that I've seen in a long time. How would you rate some of them teams, and how do you think we might well do against them?
Well, I would rate Leicester, Leeds and Southampton as being, the favourites to go back up again, simply because of the squad that in the main they've managed to retain and the money that they can spend, and of course also the support. Those would be the big 3 threats for me. You'd think they'd finish 1, 2 and 3. It is a stronger division. Every year it gets stronger just because it's going to. And when you have 3 Premiership teams coming down, the strongest 3 coming up from League One and the weakest 3 from the Championship going out. So, I mean, it's always going to be stronger every season for me. I thought last season was quite weak, having said that, and I thought that would have been a good season to get out. This season it's going to be much more difficult. Leicester are the biggest threat for me personally. I'd like to think that we are going to finish in the top 6 this season, and I actually do fancy us from automatic promotion, but I do see Leicester winning the division myself, and I'm looking forward to seeing us play them either home or away. I think we've got Leeds at home in 2 or 3 weeks, which is going to be a good yardstick as to how we're going to manage for the rest of the season, having played these teams.
Nick,
Yeah.
last time you were on, I seem to remember that you had a conversation about a prediction league with Ted. Has there been any progress, Nick?
I haven't heard a thing, no, Ted, but I am sending a couple of big fellas round to your house tomorrow afternoon who are going to give you a quote on some new windows that you're going to need.
That's all right. They'll have to deal with my missus because I'll be at work, so I'm not worried about it. But
there's a prediction for you, Ted.
What's this phrase? It has been spoken about, Nick, but if you want to redirect them two blokes round to George Lampy's house, because he's the man that says yes and no to these things. So
yeah, I've got his address as well. Got your
I will
Ted's
drop you
address.
his address after the show. Okay, mate.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Brilliant.
He needs new windows as well, by the sound of
He
it.
needs a lot of new things, mate, but he can start with his windows.
Nick. But thanks for joining us again.
Pleasure.
Bristol City, Saturday. Prediction for us, please, mate?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you play 23 home games, don't you? You can't win all 23. And, of course, during the course of a season, you're going to lose some and you're going to draw some. I mean, to me, if they can't beat Bristol City at home, then you can forget about going up. I mean, the day is a special day anyway because of John Berylson and everything. And, of course, it's a sellout. I mean, it's going to be 18 or 19,000 people there, clearly. So, I mean, they've sold all the tickets for proof of that. So they have to win. I mean, if he starts Bradshaw and Nisbet together, which I don't know why he hasn't done that, they have to win. And I would go for 1 or 2-0.
Just to follow up on that, Nick, the reason Bradshaw didn't start was because he'd been ill all week last week.
Yeah, I know, and I read that, and I understand that. Yeah, and but he did come on for the 90th minute, didn't he?
Yeah.
At the Borough game, I mean, just to kill the game off, I suppose. But yeah, I know, I understand. But even in the pre-season friendlies, from memory, I think he only played a pair of them once.
That's true.
And my biggest fear is not so much the attack now as it was last season. My biggest fear is the defence, because we saw against Reading, when you've got a young, pacey forward line like we had against Charlton in the friendly, the defence gets found out. So I think that needs working on big time. And I think, bringing in Harding is going to help a little bit. But I mean, of course, the loss of Cresswell is a major blow. But I did hear a rumour that they are looking to bring in a Premier League centre-half on loan. But, I mean, these are just rumours. You don't know, do you? And the transfer deadline doesn't end until September the 1st. So you never know. But for me, they have to beat Bristol City, and they will, 1 or 2-0, I'd like to think. And then, that gives us 6 points. And, onwards and upwards after that. We've got some good games coming up. We've got Leeds at home in 2 or 3 weeks at home and everything else. So I'm optimistic for the season, and they should beat Bristol City. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So 2-0 seems to be a very, very popular score tonight.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
I think everyone said it.
Oh, excellent. Okay,
so fingers crossed.
Should have a bet then.
We should. Mr. Headgun put one on. Right, Nick, absolute pleasure. Have a lovely day tomorrow over in Sicily, and fingers crossed for 3 points heading our way on Saturday.
Yeah, I'll be watching, and thanks very much. Have a great evening.
Cheers, Nick. Thanks very much.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Cheers, Nick.
Bye.
Cheers.
We'll take a break there to listen to our Bethany talking Ted Robinson about clean feed.
Hey?
Yeah, listen to this.
Bethany Warren here. Clean Feed by Ted Robinson.
Hold up. We're talking about an online recording platform.
Okay. Our Ted Robinson sponsors our online Clean Feed recording platform.
What were you thinking of?
Well, it sounded a little bit like a Parfum Dom Intense.
Really?
Behave. Right, just go online and see who else uses Clean Feed. It's a great bit of kit at a great price.
Clean Feed. It's what we record on and what we are listening to now.
Are you sure? When was that done? You crafty, you wait, you two. You wait.
Well, seriously, looking forward
to
it's
I've never been described with perfume before, I've got to be honest. There you go.
You sure, Ted? That ain't the story I've heard about you and perfume. I mean, well, I'm going into that. But,
I would have a little bit on my wrist before I go out of a day, I tell you.
Oh dear. Well, we're looking forward to the new season commencing on Saturday. Here are a few matters of interest from the Millwall fans. First off with Ted.
First off, what about sponsoring a player? Enjoying a great executive lounge VIP package with family and or friends? Or just getting behind the club in a number of different ways? And that includes business propositions from advertising to sponsorship. Just contact Edgar Arazo in the commercial department to find out more.
Next week, Eamon returns to the show on Friday to host Jeff, Debbie and Miles. There will be a preview of our latest game and a couple of guests too. So don't miss it. And that's good night from me.
Right, the next Millwall History and Heritage Tour takes place on September the 10th, starting at 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Tickets are currently on sale on eventbrit.co.uk. I'll say that again. Eventbrit, that's eventbrite.co.uk. And that is all small case, by the way. Just search for the Millwall History and Heritage on site. And don't forget, there will be two match day programmes on sale outside the stadium and others from the team of Patricia Maslin, Chris Bethel. Good night.
Don't forget, you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes a Talking team, bring reports from our games both home and away. And that includes updates on Millwall Community Matters 2 on Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. Links are on our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter and social media sites and all other podcast sites too. That's it from me. Thanks, Ted.
Thanks, Gal. We really enjoyed it, mate. Cheers.
Very good show. Thanks, Dave.
Cheers, Gary.
And thanks, Stan.
Yeah, cheers, Gary. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah, and it was a really good show tonight. And finally, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Good night.